Hey everyone, Richie here from Reckless Pixel Images, and in today's video we're going to take a close look at a very nice photo editing program called Dehancer Photo. So Dehancer is a plugin for Adobe Photoshop, Lightroom Classic, Capture One, and Affinity. Dehancer Photo is a film emulation software that essentially lets you edit your digital images as if you shot them with a film camera. And currently, at the time of recording this video, they have 63 film profiles. They have print profile options, as well as many parameter and control adjustments. You can get really creative in there. So this should actually be a pretty interesting creative journey to jump in and see what we can do with this. I want to say up front that I randomly received an email from Dehancer titled Request for Collaboration on YouTube. I was offered a 1-month license to review and record a video giving my honest opinion. After that, I would be offered a full license key and I could join the affiliate program. So I gladly accepted the offer because I had never used Dehancer before. I wanted to check it out, see what it was all about, and then of course I would make a video giving my honest opinion about it. With that said, if you've seen any of my other videos talking about photo or video products or gear, you know that I always start the video by saying that I do not do full reviews. I just like to show how I use the product, what I liked and disliked about it, giving my thoughts about it. And I usually say that I bought and paid for it with my own money. Now, in the case of Dehancer, no, I did not pay for Dehancer. I was given a 1-month license trial. And I'm going to give my honest opinion, because if I don't like it, then I really don't want a full license key. I don't want a subscription to it or whatever, and I'm never going to use it, and I'm never going to recommend it. I certainly wouldn't make a video recommending it. If you would like to try Dehancer Photo, they offer a free trial. You can also get a 10% discount by clicking on the link in the description box below this video. So in this video, we're going to explore 2 workflows. My favorite one is to open a TIFF from Lightroom Classic, go into Photoshop, open then into Dehancer, create our edit, close back into Lightroom. That's the one that I like, but I'll also show an edit where I just open from Lightroom Classic right into the plugin and back into Lightroom Classic. I like the first one better personally, because there should be a few tricks, if we want to use them, that we can use in Photoshop that you don't have the option to use when you're in Lightroom. So with that said, let's actually get right into this. There's a little bit of a setup that we have to do with color space, but let's get right into Lightroom Classic now. Here we are in the Develop module of Lightroom Classic. And before we start editing with Dehancer, we need to make sure we follow the correct workspace settings that Dehancer recommends. Everything you need to know can be found in the Dehancer Photo Plugin Quick Guide PDF. Now, I strongly recommend a quick 10-minute read through this guide before using the program. Without the proper color workspace settings, your images are going to definitely be off color right from the start, and you won't know really what's going on, and possibly leading you to believe that Dehancer is killing your photos. The plugin quick guide is going to show you exactly what you need for your settings in Adobe Photoshop, Lightroom Classic, Capture One, and so on. So again, I urge a quick 10-minute read to go through here and set up your workspaces. So now going back into Lightroom, I'll show you where the workspace settings can be found. If you go up to Edit, go down to Preferences, and you want to be on External Editing. And if you're going to open directly into Photoshop, this is what they recommend. It has to be a TIFF file. It has to be small color group, sRGB. It has to be 16 bits and 240. And if you're going to open directly from Lightroom into Dehancer, again, your settings will be down here. Okay, so let's move on to one more set of settings that we need to make. Dehancer has recommended raw development settings. So if you're in Lightroom or if you're in Adobe Camera Raw, you basically want to start with your image with these settings right here. So let's go back over here to Lightroom real quick, and now we're going to get to the meat of this thing. We're going to dive right in here. This image is an image I shot in Thailand. This is my first image that I'm choosing to edit here, and this is right out of the camera. There is no adjustments made, so we need to put those recommended adjustments on. And what I've done is made a preset that drops our exposure. Well, it puts us into Adobe standard, and it drops our exposure, our contrast. It also turns off sharpening, and now we can hit Control E and head on over to Photoshop. So once in Photoshop, the first thing I like to do is duplicate the layer, and then I like to turn it into a smart object, and that can be found up here. Layers, smart objects, convert to smart object. This again is my preferred workflow of how I like to edit from Lightroom going into Photoshop. So now that we've created a smart object with that layer, we can go up to Filter. We can go down to our plugin right here, Dehancer Film, and the interface always opens in kind of a collapsed view. What I like to do is double click and bring it up. So the very first thing that I like to do, that I really need to do, is go up here to the circle bar and click on that, or hit the keyboard shortcut of R. So what that does is that brings your photo back to its original, and it does away with any settings that might have been left over from the last session of editing. So let's just take a look at the landscape here and see what we got. Looking over here on the left, we are in presets, and I'm just going to change this to all presets. As you can see, it gives you thumbnails over here of basically presets, recipes that somebody else has created. Some are created by the Dehancer team. Some are created by individual people. This one right here, Fatty Soprano, I don't actually know this person, but this is one of my favorite creators on Vimeo. And obviously, if you click on a preset, it's a recipe that somebody else has already put up there. And you can, if that's what you want, you can end your edit right there. Or it could be the place that you start your edit. You can pick up from where this is and keep on going forward. So that's presets, which is kind of self-explanatory. It's just like a preset in Lightroom or pretty much any other photo editing software. We have profiles. Now these are film profiles, and they're active. You can, if they're not active, you just put a check in there. And what profiles are not an edit. They are just an actual film profile. Now the one that I currently shoot a lot of, Cinestill 50D, I really like that. Let me just so we're going to go with Cinestill 50D. Now as we move on over across the top, you can see we have undo, redo, things like that. And as we get over here, this is where basically most of your editing is going to be done. Now looking at this, we have panels, very similar to being in any other photo editing software such as Lightroom or something like that. If the panel is checked, it's active. If it's unchecked, it's not active. So you can see some of these are not active. Actually, most of them aren't. So let's just make a quick edit here. We have a histogram down here at the bottom. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to histograms when I'm doing a creative edit, but it is nice that it's there. You can turn it off by clicking on this icon up here. But for right now, I'm going to leave it on just as a reference to see where I'm going. So I'm going to start right here at the top. And this is kind of one of these things where you're going to go back and forth, because when you make an adjustment in one spot and you go to another spot, it may affect this first adjustment. So I'm going to go down. I think I'll come back to black point. I'm going to turn on the print, and I'm going to set it to print film, Kodak 2383 print film. Now linear is kind of no print media at all. As you see, where it was defaulted to was Kodak paper, but we're going to go with print film. And I'm going to go down here and check that box. Now I've been working with this program for about 2 to 3 weeks, and I kind of know what controls that I mostly use. So this tonal contrast, I will bring up the color density and experiment with that. Again, all of this is basically experimenting and being creative. And at least that's the way I look at it. So I might now go back to my black point. And I might go back up here to color temperature. I know it was a very sunny day, the day I shot this in Thailand. And essentially what I'm going for here is a cinematic feel. So I'm not going to mess with color head. You can see there are many controls in here. Now, if you are a film shooter, a serious film shooter, and a film developer, you're going to know what a lot of this stuff is. But you don't have to be a film shooter or developer to work with this program. That's the best part about it. It just allows you to dive in and find a nice film profile, something maybe that you are familiar with. And at least I'm familiar with all the CineStill stuff I shoot, and I shoot some Kodak Portra, things like that. So let's go down to film grain. If we got film, we know we're going to have grain, and this is where we want to zoom in. And I know that CineStill is kind of not a real high grain film. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these amounts down first. And color is the color of your grain. We know that a lot of grain is RGB. If you look in this white shirt, you can see there's a multitude of colors in there. So I like to bring the RBG down. And now I just think I'm going to pull down the overall amount. And then zoom out a little bit. Like editing with anything else, you want to zoom in, but you also want to look at your edit zoomed out. If we were looking at grain, and let's just look at our histogram. The histogram don't look too bad. But if we were actually printing this film, where you're going to notice grain is when you hold a photo in your hand and you look at it close up. So I know if I was holding this photo, like say an 8x10 of this, I would start to see grain, and I still think that's maybe a little too much for CineStill 50. But here again, we're being creative, so it could be anything. So I kind of think that is where I'm going to leave it. Just do a quick edit. Now there's many more things that we can go through and look at here. What I just want to stop real quick and give some of my thoughts about this actual interface. I really do wish that you could custom stack these panels the way you do in Lightroom. And I wish that, kind of a wish, that there was a solo mode. And I'll give you an example. We'll just pop right back into Lightroom here. Now I have custom stacked my panels, and I have it in solo mode so that if I open this effects, it closed basic. If I open basic, if I open anything, it will only have one panel open at a time, and you can custom stack them. I kind of wish that there was something like that in here. I couldn't find anything like that, so I don't think it exists. And there are a few glitches in this program. I'll talk about the glitches towards the end of it, but right now I'm really liking this. So if I close this, it's going to put us back into Photoshop, and there is our edit. So, there's where we started, and there it is. So that's the Photoshop workflow. Now all I have to do is save this. It's going to go right back into Lightroom, and we're good. So now let's go check out the Lightroom workflow. Okay, so for our second edit, I've chose to edit a person. This is a photo of Tiffany. We did this photo shoot in the rain a few years back, and I thought this would be something good to play with and make a creative edit. So again, it's straight out of camera. There's no adjustments to this. We're going to go over here and hit the Dehancer preset, which is going to bring everything into position with exposure, contrast. Let's see, it turns off the sharpening, and now we're ready to edit. And we're going to do this edit right here from Lightroom into Dehancer, not using Photoshop. So we're going to go up here, edit in Dehancer. It's asking us to confirm our settings. So it opens in a collapsed view, just as much same way as it did in Photoshop. Double click on it, it brings it up. We're going to hit the circle bar to clear out any leftover settings from the last session. And with this edit, I think I'm just going to go right down here and choose a preset. Last time we chose a film profile. Well, there's like a really low key. And sometimes it's fun just to go through and check some of these presets. You know what? I think I like that one right there. The Kodak Ektar 25. Now, I'm going to go over here. I'm not going to use, I never really use these two panels here, so I'm going to collapse them. I might come back to my black point. Maybe I'll adjust it now. For here, I'm going to actually pull down the contrast. Now you can always hit the keyboard shortcut of just Z, and that will undo the last thing you did. I'm watching my histogram a little bit, but you can see the streaks of rain as they were coming down. The grain looks really nice on this. Let's see what the grain settings were. So the amount was around 30. Not too bad. Pull the color, the RGB color down. I like that. I might go back. I might go the other way with the tonal. Just right there. Very subtle. Okay, so that was a quick edit. I didn't want to drag. This video is going to be long as it is. So now what I want to do is I want to close. As you can see, it's going to bring it back into Lightroom. And this is what we started with. I kind of really like that. I like that bluish where the railroad tracks are running behind her. Now, let's talk about glitches real quick. So some of the glitches that I found with this are if you notice, we come back. Let's start with here's our edit where we started. Notice how I had keywords in there. I found a few glitches in the program. I've notified Dehancer. They got back to me right away and said they acknowledged that, yeah, they're glitches and that they do happen sometimes. Now, I take them for their word. They say it happens sometimes. I don't know. Haven't talked to anybody else that used Dehancer. Maybe they happen all the time. But one of the glitches is it sometimes strips out the keywords. Not a big deal. You still can perform your edit. Sometimes it strips out data from in here in the metadata. It will take out, like, you know, the shutter speeds and the f-stop, all that stuff will just disappear. I've only had this happen with the Lightroom to Dehancer workflow. With the Photoshop workflow, it doesn't seem to do too bad. But I had some glitches in Photoshop. And if you notice my workflow in Photoshop, I made a smart object. And that the whole reason I do that is it allows me to revisit the edit right from where I left off. So if I decide that, you know, later on I want to go back and go to that same edit and pick up where I left off, all I got to do is double click and it opens up. But now, if you remember, I made adjustments to my exposure compensation, and that is now back to 0. Okay, so that was a glitch. Now, as far as I could tell, I went through a lot of the other settings and everything seems to be where I left it. But for whatever reason, exposure compensation, it puts it right back to 0. Another glitch that I found was if I save something, you know, a favorite, when I close and come back, it's gone. And then the other glitch was if I wanted to save a preset. It comes up, I'll put in save it. You can see that it's right there. And if I close this and reopen it, my preset is gone. So it doesn't, at least the version I have, and they claim it's a full version, but they acknowledged, Dehancer acknowledged this. So now glitches. Let's just get out of this and I'll give you my final thoughts about this. Let's just, for the fun of it, let's just open it up again. Okay, so the favorite is gone. And the presets, if I go to my presets, my preset is not there. Okay, so I'm going to cancel that and give you my final thoughts about this. So my final thoughts are, I really do like this program a lot. I mean, I think this is a very nice, very creative tool. If you actually want to emulate some, and I shot a lot of film. You got to remember, I was born in 1964, so for a better part of my life, all I shot was film, just the same as everybody else, because that's all there was. I wasn't a serious film shooter, but I shot film. I had a science teacher that taught me how to develop film. I never really developed on my own, but I knew the whole process of it, how to make prints with an enlarger in a dark room. It was a lot of fun. I had a couple friends in my 20s that had dark rooms. They would let me stand next to them when they developed my film. My one friend, Mark, talked about pushing and pulling, and he showed me how to dodge and burn, you know, while developing, making prints. It was very interesting, but I never got real creative with photography until I got into digital, which is around 2003. I bought my first 2 megapixel camera, and then DSLR came around 2008 or 9. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is I do know about film, what prints look like, and I can say that if you really want to emulate that, this software definitely will do that. And it will go beyond that. If you just want to make really creative stuff that you might not have really been able to do with film, but still look like film, I think it can be done with this program. As far as the glitches that I found, they don't stop you from performing an edit. But there are glitches, they're there. I mean, it's plain to see. Photoshop has glitches. Lightroom has glitches. I mean, I've been using Photoshop and Lightroom and Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve. I've been using all these programs for years. They all have glitches. But as long as the glitch or the little hang up, hiccup, problem, whatever you want to call it, doesn't hinder you too much from creating your final product, your final creation, then I say it's okay. It'd be different if Dehancer Photo was the only program in the world that had a glitch, and it's not. So with that said, I would definitely recommend it for somebody that, whether you're a film shooter or whether you're somebody that just wants to emulate film shooting, this is definitely a program worth checking out. Okay, everybody, hit like, hit subscribe. I'm harmless. Come back and check out other stuff on the channel. And I might even do some more stuff about Dehancer as I dive more into this. I just got a whole batch of film, and I got a bunch of Ektar and Cinestill and Portra to kind of stock me up for the summer. So I have some film bodies. I got some old film bodies, and I think I'll do some more stuff in the future on film. It's a lot of fun. It can be expensive, but it's a lot of fun. Okay, everybody, have a great day.